back to the Detail Garage. Today we're going to show you how to restore plastic headlights. Now over time, headlights can become faded, discolored, and yellow, and you can easily restore this using just a few products. So on this Jeep Grand Cherokee, we're going to show you how to restore the headlights back to crystal clear condition. Now this is a super easy job for any novice detailer or professional detailer to do. And if you're a professional detailer looking to restore headlights, you can easily do this every week to have a straight income. So I'm going to go ahead and show you all the stuff you need to restore the headlights, and then we're going to show you the step-by-step process on how to restore the plastic headlights. So what we're going to use to restore the plastic headlights today is we're going to use some automotive grade paint polishes. Now polishes don't just work on paint, they also work on plastic as well. So we have the chemicalized V-line polishes here that we're going to use to restore the headlights. Now we're also going to use some buffing pads. So we're going to use an orange Hex Logic Pad. This is going to be for the cutting. And we're also going to use a white Hex Logic Pad, and this is going to be for the soft polishing. To remove all the oxidation and dead plastic from the headlights, we're going to be using a sanding block system. So we're going to be using the chemicalized sanding block. This is a foam adhesive block. And we're also going to be using 2500 grit and 3500 grit sandpaper. Now this is going to sand away the headlights and remove all the dead plastic and oxidation. We'll talk about this a little bit more in a little bit later. Now to remove any water that we're going to be using during the process, we have some premium microfiber towels. We also have some standard water in a spray bottle. We also have some glass cleaner. This is to remove any bugs before we get started. And then we're going to be using either a rotary polisher or we're going to be using a drill that you have at your home. You can use either one of these, and we're going to talk about which one is going to be best for every situation when we get started on the headlights. And the only other thing we need is some sealant to protect the headlights. So we're going to be using chemicalized JetSeal, and we're going to be applying that using a microfiber applicator pad. Now, one other thing that I recommend to have, it's not necessary, but it's really going to help you out in this job, is going to be some painter's tape. This is going to be green painter's tape. Blue and green painter's tape will work just fine for this job, and this is going to protect the paint from getting messed up when you're sanding and polishing. So let's get started. We're going to go step by step and show you how to restore the headlights. So the first thing you're going to want to do is grab a microfiber towel and some glass cleaner. Now I'm going to use the glass cleaner to remove any bugs off the headlight. I haven't washed this car. This car just came into the shop, so I'm going to clean off any bugs and any dirt on the headlight before we start sanding. So let's spray the glass cleaner on there, and then we're going to wipe any bugs off. Now you notice when I sprayed the glass cleaner on there, the headlight actually started to look a lot more clear, but that's because all the glass cleaner is hiding up all the oxidation and light scratches, and that way it's starting to look a little clear. But as you notice, once the alcohol in the window cleaner starts to dry up, it starts to get that nasty faded look again. Now this service that I'm going to show you how to do today is only going to work on plastic headlights. So it's going to work on plastic headlights, it's also going to work on plastic fog lights and tail lights. It will also work on any bug visors or any type of clear plastic visor that you might have on your car, but it will not work on glass. Glass can be polished, but it can't be restored the way I'm going to show you how to do this today. So now we're going to start with sanding the headlights. Now the purpose of sanding the headlight is to remove all of the dead plastic. Now from sitting outside in the sun, the plastic actually absorbs the UV solar rays, and the plastic actually becomes dead. Both of these headlights on the left and the right side are both really faded and have a lot of oxidation. Now the reason you'd want to restore the headlights is, first of all, it improves the overall condition of the vehicle. This vehicle looks pretty good even though it's a daily driver, but the headlights really kill the look. So it's going to bring up the look of the vehicle a lot better. The second reason is safety and visibility. When you're driving at night, the faded headlights can actually block out a lot of the light that's coming out of your headlight system. So oftentimes, faded headlights can block up to 60 to 70% of your light. That means you're only driving with 30% of the light on the road, and that's going to reduce your safety, and it might lead to an accident, or it'll lead to low visibility on the road. So we're going to improve the visibility and safety of this vehicle by restoring the headlights as well. So I'm going to take my sanding block and I'm going to use the chemicalized sandpaper to sand the headlight. Now this is an adhesive block. You can also use any automotive grade sandpaper you can pick up at any store. That will work just fine. The best thing about the chemicalized block is that the sandpaper actually lasts a lot longer because it's a higher quality sandpaper, and it's easily able to be gripped by the block. So when you're sanding, you might have a weird grip on the sandpaper and it might lead to cramping or pain in your hand. The block actually allows you to grip onto the surface so you don't drop the sandpaper or you're not uncomfortable when you're sanding. Plus, it's actually foam, so it's going to curve to any contours of the light itself. This light actually curves at the end and has a contour at the bottom and the top, and those areas need to have a flex, so the block's going to help us out. Now I'm going to put my glass cleaner down, and I'm gonna grab some water. Now all you need to do is use water for this. You can use soap or detail spray if you like, but water is gonna work just fine, especially on a messed up headlight like this. So let's spray the headlight and spray our sanding block. And then we're gonna start sanding the headlight. Now I want to stop for a minute and show you guys what is actually happening here, because you'll see all of this area right here is turning like a milky color. And what that is that's the dead oxidation, that's the dead plastic that's actually coming off the headlight. And if you notice, when I'm taking the sandpaper, I'm actually having to sand directly on the headlight itself. But that can also lead to another problem where if you're going too fast or not taking care, you can actually go over and sand on the painted surfaces. So that's why, if you can, pick up some blue or green painter's tape, and this is going to help you out on the surface as well. So now that I've sanded just a little bit on the headlight, you can see that area is having a little faded area, and that's what we want to do. We want to get a nice faded area because we're going to restore that with polish. Now that I've showed you what can happen with any type of sanding or any type of damage that can happen when you're doing the service, I'm going to show you how to tape it up. So I'm going to grab some of the painter's tape, and I'm just going to cover any areas that could be touched with the sandpaper. Okay, we're all ready to start sanding. So let's spray the headlight completely. Use a lot of water when you're doing this. You don't need to go down on the water level. You can easily stay high. So I'm going to start sanding the surface. Now when you sand, you don't want to go in circles. You only want to go in left to right movements. And you see, as I'm sanding, all of this milky layer right here, that's the actual dead plastic coming off. Now my goal is to use the 2500 grit sandpaper to continue sanding until no more milky color is coming off the light. That means I've removed all of the dead plastic, and then we can go on to our next step of sanding. So I'm going to work at this for a few minutes, and then once I'm done, we'll inspect the area. now we've been sanding for a few minutes, and now it's time to go ahead and inspect the surface and see if we have to do any more sanding. So if you notice on the floor, there's a lot of like milky type of plastic. That's okay. If you have all the milky plastic come off, that's what you want. So I'm going to spray some water on the surface, rinse it down a little bit. Obviously, if you're doing this type of service on your car, you're going to want to do it before you wash the car because you don't want to have all this mess on there after you wash the car. So now I'm going to wipe the headlight clean, and we're going to inspect the surface. Okay, so one thing you guys notice now is the headlight has even more haze to it. Now you're thinking, oh, you're trying to restore the headlight, but has more haze to it. That's okay, that's what you want. The goal here is to create sanding scratches that can be removed using the polisher and the buffer. Now, before the headlight didn't feel smooth, but now even with the sanding marks, the headlight feels extremely smooth, like super smooth. Now, I'm going to sand it even more to make the scratches a little bit smaller. Right now the scratches are too big to be removed using the polish that we want to use to polish this headlight. So we're going to actually make the scratches even smaller, and once the scratches are smaller, the polish will be able to remove those scratches and we'll have a crystal clear light. Now what you want to do is you want to make sure you don't skimp out on the edge of the headlight. The edge of the headlight is oftentimes very damaged, has a lot of UV solar light hitting it, and can often have a lot of buildup of oxidation. So you want to make sure you sand all the way to the edge. And that's why I taped up the entire perimeter of the headlight so I can get really close to it and I don't have to worry about sanding off the paint or damaging the paint itself. So now we're going to go ahead and trade our sandpapers out. So I'm going to take my sanding block and I'm actually going to remove the sandpaper. So sandpaper can be removed. If you have two blocks, you can actually use two pieces of sandpaper and you can just grab another block. So now I'm going to take my 3500 grit sandpaper and I'm going to put it on the block itself. Now this sandpaper is not a generic type of sandpaper that you might find at like the hardware store. This is actually a specialty designed sandpaper for automotive paint or headlight correction. So it's not going to gull up, it's not going to clog as much as like a traditional sandpaper that you might get at a hardware store. So it's going to allow you to polish and sand a lot faster and a lot easier. So now that we got our block set up, I'm going to grab my water again and I'm going to spray the headlight and spray my block. And then I'm going to start sanding. Now, when I start sanding the headlight now, you'll notice that I'm not getting very much yellow oxidation off. That's because we took all of that oxidation off in the previous step, and that's why I spent so much time doing that right. My goal now is to refine the surface and make sure that I remove any sanding marks from the previous sanding step. So this step with the 3500 grit, it doesn't really take that long because the surface is already sanded, it's already in good condition. We're just trying to refine it and make it a little smoother. And also don't forget to get to those edges at the top, at the sides, at the bottom. Okay, I think that's perfectly fine. I'm going to go ahead and dry off the surface now and inspect. Okay, so while the surface is drying, I'm going to go ahead and feel the surface, make sure that it's all smooth. And this thing is real smooth. It feels like glass, even though it's plastic. And once I buff it, I know it's going to feel extremely smooth. So let's go ahead. I'm going to put these towels away. And let's go ahead and start talking about the machines that we're going to use. So there's two ways that you guys can go ahead and do this. You can either go ahead and use a rotary polisher. So if you have a rotary polisher, that'll get the job done. You can use a DeWalt, a Makita, a Flex, any rotary polisher of choice. We're going to be working with the Flex PE8 compact polisher. This is a really small polisher and it's going to be perfect for polishing headlights. Now, if you don't have a polisher, there is another option you can use. You can actually use a corded or a cordless drill. I recommend a corded drill because it's going to give you more power and it's going to allow you to polish for longer without draining a battery. Now, on our website, chemicalized.com, we actually sell what's called the good screw. Now, this is the good screw adapter. And the good screw adapter allows you to take any rotary backing plate and you can use this adapter inside the backing plate itself. And then that allows you to connect the good screw to any corded or cordless drill. It also works on pneumatic air drills as well. So this can actually allow me to polish the headlight perfectly. So if you want another option, you have a corded drill, you don't want to invest in a rotary polisher, you can easily use this with just a backing plate and that option. Now I like to use a rotary when I do my job, so I'm going to be using a rotary. Now I'm also going to be using an orange Hex Logic Pad and a white Hex Logic Pad. So I'll set those over here. And we're not going to be using all of the V line of polishes. We're only going to be using the V32 and the V36. Now the reason is because plastic is usually much harder than paint. It's a little bit harder to polish. So we're going to use more aggressive polishes to be able to cut through all the damage and all the sanding scratches. So let's set up this machine. Now, a lot of people try to do this with a dual action polisher. You can get good results with a dual action polisher, but the dual action polisher isn't designed to cut through sanding scratches as well as a rotary or a drill. So I'd recommend to use a rotary or use a drill if you have access to that. So I'm going to go ahead and place my 4-inch pad on my machine and make sure it's centered up. There we go. And we're going to be working with the V line of polishes. These are the 4-ounce sample kit. You can pick this up with all 4 polishes on our website right now, chemicalized.com. We'll post a link right below on the screen. And that way you can pick this up. And these will do a good amount of headlights. So if you're looking to, instead of buy big 16-ounce sizes or 32-ounce sizes like we offer, we have this small pack that is a great deal to use with any headlight kit. So I'm going to place a few dots on my polishing pad. And then this is going to be just enough to get me started. I'm also going to use water as a lubricant. And let's start polishing. I'm going to start on speed setting 1. I'm going to move up to about speed setting 4.5. Okay, I'm going to stop for a minute. You guys can see the results that I'm getting right here. The V32 and the rotary polisher is taking out the scratches from the sanding marks like easy. And that's why I spent so much time sanding, is because it reduces my amount of time that I need polishing. And you can see already how clear the headlight looks. It's already looking like brand new. So I'm going to add some more polish and I'm going to work over this section again to make sure that I have a nice smooth cut. When you're polishing headlights, you often have to use a little bit more product than paint because you're really trying to cut through plastic, and plastic's a little bit harder. So I'm going to try and polish the whole rest of this headlight, and then we'll move on to the next step. Sweet, so there we go. We're done with our compounding stage. And already, look at the difference that the light is already having. It already looks really, really clear. Now for most people, this would be good. You could be done right here and throw some wax on it or sealant and you'll be good to go. I like to polish it one more step because I've already done all this work. I can just do a little bit more work and the results will actually be fantastic. So I'm gonna grab a white polishing pad and I'm gonna throw this on my rotary polisher. I always want to make sure that your pad is as centered as it could be. There we go. Now for this one I'm going to use V36 and this is going to be a cutting polish. And this is going to bring a little bit more gloss to the surface because V32, which we use to cut out all the sanding scratches to get that crystal clear image, is very aggressive. It has a lot of abrasives in it. It feels very rough. And because of that, it can cause a little bit of haze on the headlight. Now right here, it probably does look real crystal clear on the camera, but we can bring it up more. And in person, I can see that it could use a little bit more shine. So I'm going to do the same thing, speed setting 1, and then I'm going to bump it down to, or bump it up to speed setting about 4.5, 5. There we go. So now I'm going to buff off any remaining polish with a microfiber towel. There we go. Boom. Perfect. Now, the last thing I got to do on this headlight restoration job is I got to put on some sealant or some wax. Now, sealant or wax is going to protect the headlight from any fading or any oxidation that can occur after the service, because we did the service and we want to keep it looking its best. So I'm going to use some sealant. Now, natural carnauba wax works just fine, but on plastic that's exposed to UV solar light, always head on, I'm going to use a sealant. So we're going to be using JetSeal. JetSeal is a synthetic sealant. It's 100% synthetic and it's going to protect to the highest level, so it's going to last 1 year. This is a 4-ounce size. You can pick this up right now on our website, chemicalized.com. I'll put the link right there so you guys can pick it up and get restoring with your headlights. Now this protects everything. It protects plastic, it protects paint, it protects glass. It's a very, very durable formula. It works great on wheels. I use it on every area of my car. It's perfect sealant. So I'm going to go ahead and spread the sealant on. I'm going to put a nice layer on there. There we go. So we're good to go. Now I'm going to start taking off this tape because we don't need it anymore. And I'm going to go ahead and wipe the front of this car down with some detail spray because JetSeal needs to dry for 20 minutes. So we're going to go ahead and take a break. I'm going to clean up the front of this car. And then when we come back, we're going to buff off the JetSeal and show you guys the results of our headlight restoration job. We'll see you guys in about 20 minutes. So we're back after 20 minutes and our JetSeal is dried on the surface. Now remember that sealant or wax is designed to protect the headlight. So that way any UV solar lights or any type of contamination won't mess up our perfectly restored headlights. So I'm going to take a microfiber towel and I'm gently just going to buff off the JetSeal. Now if you want added protection, you can easily put 2 coats of JetSeal, but 1 coat is going to protect your headlight or your paint for up to 1 year. And there we go. Now the results of this is simply fantastic, and I know the owner is going to be real happy when he comes back and sees that his headlights are brand new. Now these things are crystal clear, they're smooth as glass, and they really make the whole car look a lot better. Now remember, some headlights out there might cost thousands of dollars because they might have things like self-adjusting headlights, HID components, LED lighting, all these types of systems that are inside the headlight can lead to costing thousands of dollars to replace. So if you have a BMW, a Porsche, a Mercedes, an Audi, or even a high-end supercar that has faded headlights, which often happens over time, it might be very expensive to replace those headlights, or your headlights might not even be able to be made anymore. But with using this process that I showed you here with just a few polishes, a few tools, some microfiber towels, and some wax or sealant, you can easily restore your headlights and save thousands of dollars in many cases. Well, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, give it a thumbs up. We make these videos just for you guys, so you guys can have all this free information out there to help your car look the best or get your business started. Now, if you like this video as well, go ahead and click that subscribe button right down at the bottom. Find it, click it. That'll give you access to all of our 600 plus videos on how to detail anything to do headlight restoration, polish paint, fix windshields, any and every type of detailing service we have right here on our channel. So if you subscribe, you get full access to all those videos right when they're released. So hopefully you guys like this video, and we'll see you next time right here in the Detail Garage.